Hey, we are live and still having issues with getting this to stream on YouTube simultaneously with Facebook. So hopefully by next week that'll happen. This will be posted on YouTube, but for tonight, I guess we're just going to do it live stream on Facebook. So hello, I'm Howard Mann, creator of Conscious Shifting, and welcome to Conscious Shifting. Before we get started, a quick warning and disclaimer. Conscious shifting and all known side effects will improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health while creating the ideal environment for spiritual awakening, helping you live the life of your dreams and influencing the world in a positive. The best way to ask a question is simply to put a capital Q in the comment box followed by your question. And with that, let's get started. Everybody take a deep breath. Way down to the belly button and relax. And one more time, big deep breath and relax. And one more time, big deep breath and relax. All right, so the question of the week is, how do you know what is the illusion? It's a great question. It's a great question. And we could spend years answering it. In short, there is the physical realm and the spiritual realm, and they're not separate. However, they are different. The physical realm is made up of matter, including your mind body, as well as time and space. It consists of what appears to be solid matter, form. But everything in the physical realm is in a constant state of change. Nothing's permanent, nor what it appears to be. Hence, the illusion. The illusion is recognized by its dependence on time and space. So if something appears to exist at a specific time or in a specific space, then it is part of the illusion. There can be some understanding with the intellect. For example, science explains how all matter is actually made of energy, but there's much that lies beyond thought. Science and the intellect are bound by time and space, right? So in contrast, the spiritual realm is beyond the mind body, beyond time, beyond space. It's non-physical. There's no form, there's no matter. It's eternal. It never changes. It always is what it is. And as spiritual beings, we already have within us spiritual knowledge. We are part of it, and therefore we have knowledge of it. The best way I know to access this is through meditation. In meditation, we can learn how to connect to source and allow our spiritual essence to emerge, allowing our higher self to express itself through form into this realm, giving purpose to the illusion. It is an expansion of consciousness. It is consciousness expressing itself through physical existence. All right, so that's it on how to differentiate between the illusion or the physical realm and the spiritual realm. So let's see who we have in here so far. And I see Tina and Cheryl, love, laugh, and be happy in the house. Rebecca, Kim, and Susan, and Chris, and David, and Jennifer. Welcome, Jennifer. All right, so let's get started. Tonight's topic is evolution of the ego. So evolution of the ego has been necessary for human life here on Earth. And for those who are troubled by the word evolution, don't be, because evolution and creation are not mutually exclusive. Obviously, something created the world. Evolution is simply one of the cosmic forces of creation. So you can think of evolution as change due to various influences on life rather than the actual cause of life. It's probably far more accurate than most descriptions you're going to hear. But as life has evolved, the ego has evolved right alongside intelligence. So people often get the idea that ego is all bad, and the ego can be either constructive or destructive, depending on whether you use it or it uses you. The subconscious ego can certainly cause a lot of problems. In fact, ego plays a role in all of your problems. First, any prolonged imbalance in any area of your life creates a state leading to physical and or mental disease. And most imbalances are the result of identification with the ego, viewing reality through the viewpoint of the ego, and assuming that that is reality and that you are that. So moving on, when you get right down to it, if we're to understand the evolution of ego, then we really need to look at the evolution of life itself. Life has evolved to bring us to this point. And looking at the evolution of life, what do we see? That life finds a way. That's kind of like just rule number one, life finds a way. It evolves into higher and higher life forms capable of higher and higher intelligence, and eventually it evolves into life forms capable of consciousness and high levels of consciousness. At the top are Homo sapiens, or simply humans. And humans aren't only capable of consciousness, they're capable of higher consciousness, eternal consciousness aware of itself. A little bit different than most of the other life forms and things that you'll find here on planet Earth. Let me make sure I haven't missed any questions thus far. Okay, so just looking around at the animal kingdom, we clearly see life forms from very low intelligence to very high intelligence. The low end life forms such as bacteria, plants, and insects operate exclusively on natural instinct. And here I'm using natural instinct as inherent or unlearned behavior. In the middle are those beginning to develop intelligence. And most animals are capable of very basic problem solving. And near the top are animals with high levels of intelligence. They put together more complex ideas in a constructive manner. And animals in this category, such as crows, dolphins, and chimpanzees, are also known to use tools. And then there are humans who are completely different. We contemplate life itself. Humans also have the capacity to express spirit on a level unparalleled. Still, the evolution of ego has shadowed the evolution of intelligence. The subconscious ego is left over from the evolution of intelligence. So think of insects and reptiles. Total instinct. As amazing as they are, they blindly go about business following instinctive programming. But suddenly, they sense other movement. And if they don't respond quickly, they may not survive. So going into fight or flight, stress response can be a lifesaver if that other movement is a predator or some other form of danger. And most species wouldn't exist today if not for the stress response. They would have been killed in accidents or become prey and then failed to reproduce and finally become extinct. The psychophysiological mechanism for triggering the stress response is the beginning of ego. Originally, the stress response was the body's response to life-threatening events. Signs of the stress response include elevated breath, high heart rates, increased blood pressure, anxiety, and fear, as well as muscle tension. Do these things sound familiar to anybody? Oh my. Let me check for questions real quick. Hi, Fiona. Hi, Ray. All right. So, what happens is that the body, in order to deal with the threat, shuts down all non essential functions. That is to say, functions that are non essential in an emergency. The body does this so that it can divert all possible energy to essential areas, essential in an emergency. If there's a threat to your life, you need to either battle the threat, fight, or escape the threat, flight, and both require strong, fast, gross motor movements. So this energy is diverted, but at what expense? Some of the functions shut down during a stress response are that of the immune system, the digestion system, and most maintenance and health healing functions, as well as fine motor skills. And another thing that happens is that blood vessels constrict. This is how the energy is diverted. And that reduces blood flow to some areas, but more blood will then flow to areas considered vital for survival. And furthermore, this constriction includes the thinking part of your brain. So consequently, more blood will then flow to your subconscious, the reactionary part of your brain. So a stressful lifestyle means what then, right? The thing is that in an emergency, you need to react. This is the purpose of martial arts training, for example, to train the body to react. In a real life threatening situation, a few seconds is going to usually determine whether you survive or become extinct. So if you survive, then the body will naturally shut down the stress response, or at least that's the way it was designed. Next, the body will bring systems back online, and especially relevant, the stress response by design is intended for surviving emergencies, meaning rare and short-term use. Balance is then restored. So the ego uses, or the ego serves as a survival tool in its most basic form. The stress response is how you survive emergencies and life-threatening events. And there's been an evolution of ego. It has evolved beyond that. But while the ego has evolved, its foundation is still fear. Critical point. It's that voice in your head that never shuts up, constantly warning you as you judge everything, thereby keeping you in a state of perpetual stress response. And this alone causes many of the health problems associated with both psychological and physiological origins. Along with the evolution of ego has come emotional evolution. Along with fear, the ego indulges in anger, hatred, revenge, and every other negative emotion. And you may see where we are headed with this. What started out as territorial behaviors to protect the food supply turned into greed. Mating behavior begot jealousy. And identification with the ego gave rise to indifference and hatred of others. So, back in the beginning, the tribe, it was very important to be loyal and protect the tribe and worry about others and this kind of stuff. But that kind of thinking in this day and age we're able to think in far more complex ways. So we can be aware of danger. We can have awareness without being in fear of everything and being stressed out all the time. There's a huge difference between the two. And this is part of what I meant when I was saying, depending on whether you use the ego or the ego uses you. So it can be good, it can be bad, it can, it's necessary. You have to have that viewpoint to navigate this dimension, this three-dimensional reality that we're in. You wouldn't be able to move about or schedule events or even communicate without it. But if you identify with it and with those emotions, then it kind of explains things here on Earth, doesn't it? Explains a lot about the common consciousness and the collective. Let's look and see if there's any questions. They're jumping a little bit. 2 a.m. Wow, Fiona. Awesome. So it'll be worth sitting up and that late to watch this. Now remember, if you ever miss one, you can replay them, but it's kind of cool when you can catch them live. I know. All right. So while humans are at the top with regards to the potential for higher consciousness, they're also the masters of negative emotions. I mean, that's one thing we do really well. And that is total identification with the ego. So going back to the question of the week, how do you know what is the illusion? Well, one way you could look at it is it's either of the ego or it's of spirit. So if it's a negative emotion, it's of ego. You're identified with your ego. You're in your subconscious, the primitive part of the brain. And the only thing that's going to come from those negative emotions is negativity. They're full of toxic energy. And when you identify with them, you absorb that toxic energy. That's why you have the health problems that you do, both mental and physical, for the most part. So rather than just, acting out, acting out of fear for purely survival reasons, humans do more for emotional reasons than any other animal on the planet. It's actually a very predatory game that we play with these negative emotions. If you really, some night we will get into it. But for tonight, I'm just talking about the evolution of ego, how it evolved into what it is. And with that awareness, then you can kind of be aware of it and know when you're being triggered and when you're being sucked down into your ego. So we're capable. I mean, we have the potential for higher consciousness than any other species on the planet. But we also, at the same time, have the capacity for a much more wide range of emotions and acting on those emotions for reasons other than survival. That's not so cool, is it? Hi, Gloria. Hi, Belen. Welcome. All right. So while thoughts and emotions can be irrational, they're in and of themselves not the problem. your subconscious can produce many negative thoughts and emotions. And while they help form low levels of consciousness, identification with these thoughts and emotions grounds you in that lower consciousness. And that's the problem. You see that? So you could just, as we say, in meditation, observe your thoughts and emotions, just be the watcher. Then no big deal. Okay, you don't have to judge them, you don't have to think about them, you don't have to engage them. You just don't act on them, right? They're not appropriate. And healing, we'll talk about that some other time. How to, if you see something alarming, how to get in there and figure out what that's all about. But just observing them, you don't have to react. Just watch them and decide which ones are appropriate for your life. When you identify with them and you think that they're reality and you just act without thinking about it, that's the problem. That's the problem. The point is that you are not your thoughts and emotions. They're something you have. They are not who you are. So, but this has all been necessary for life here on earth, that you have to have a point of reference. You have to have a viewpoint to operate from. Life as we know it would be impossible without the ego. In the human condition, we perceive things through time, past, present, and future. We also perceive things through space, here and there. And we do this through our senses, such as touch, sight, and sound. You can function in time and space because you have an ego, a reference point in the time-space continuum. For example, walking about, scheduling events, catching a plane, manipulation of matter, like preparing a meal, your verbal and visual communication are also made possible by the ego. So all this is useful in the physical realm, but there's a catch. Your ego is a construct of your mind. Thoughts about reality are not reality. The problem occurs when you mistake your thoughts and emotions for reality. Worse still is when you confuse them with your identity, with your ego, right? You identify with your ego. So, in other words, these thoughts and emotions are of the ego. And when you believe that these thoughts and emotions are reality and that you are your thoughts and emotions, that's when all of this becomes a huge problem. That's when you get sucked down into your subconscious, and it's called the subconscious for a reason, because it's not even something that lifetime is thinking. It's just a bunch of stored programs, things that you've learned. And so you really, when you're it's subconscious, so you don't even realize it. You think you're conscious because the conscious part of the brain and the subconscious part of the brain work, and we'll talk about this probably next week a little bit more in depth, but they work at the same time together in tandem. So you may have the sensation, you might think that you're actually conscious in the moment while you're in your subconscious. In fact, most people spend most of the time that way. It's that's what I mean when I say worse still is when you confuse your identity with your ego, because then you're stuck down in there, and all there is these programs, and you're identifying with them as if that's who you are and acting on them without any conscious thought or no type of filter at all. So you might just, somebody cuts you off in traffic and, there you go without even thinking about it. That's kind of how it works. But it can also be subtle, where all of the things that you do, You wonder why you're manifesting what you are? It's because of what's in your subconscious. Topic for another night, but you get the idea here, right? It's not a place that you want to be locked up in, where you've reduced yourself to a robot, a human robot, and you're just acting on these programs that are in there instead of actually living life, live time, being conscious and in the flow, so to speak, being present in the moment. So far too often, um, this ego gets your attention by scaring you. And remember, originally it was based in fear. I mean, that's how it all got started. We've evolved, it's evolved, but it's still, its basis is in fear. And so it tends to see the world as a very scary place and doesn't trust in anything really, and tries to keep you in a state of fear. So far too often, people think that they're in this state of danger only because they believe that they're separate from everything and everyone. And see the difference? Now, what spiritual consciousness is identification with spirit, which there's just one of and we're all a part of. It's understanding that we are connected to each other and to God. There is no separation. We're all one spiritual being. But from the ego's point of view, everybody is separate. Right? So the viewpoint that gives you the ability to navigate time and space also creates this illusion of separation, that there is time and space. And we forget that we're a spiritual being expressing ourselves through a physical existence, and believe that we are that physical existence and that this physical realm is reality. It's all a lie. It's all an illusion. And that pulls you into the subconscious. So this anxiety, this fear of being separated from God, a lot of people don't understand this because this is all on a subconscious level. But almost everything that's going on in the world is going on in the world because people believe that they're separate from God and from each other. Think about that. If that wasn't the case, none of this stuff, none of this evil crap, none of this negative stuff would be going on. If people were really living as spirit, really understanding the spiritual connection between all of us and God, just the oneness of it all, this wouldn't be going on. There wouldn't be crime. There wouldn't be lying and cheating and stealing. There wouldn't be warfare. There wouldn't be poverty. There wouldn't be starvation. There wouldn't be politics. There wouldn't be a need for police and courts, and there wouldn't be. All of that is only necessary because we're attempting to control something out of the fear that we don't have control over it. Well, we do and we don't. On a physical level, we don't have any control over it. On a spiritual level, we're creating it. It's our own doing. We're manifesting this because of the level of consciousness that collectively we operate at. So, bringing it back a little bit more personal, all physical disease is at least in part due to stress. And this, what is fear if it's not stress? So all mental disease involves negative emotions. Again, because of the fear involved in believing that we've separated. It's delusional thinking to believe that your thoughts and emotions are who you are. They're at best only beliefs about who you are. And they're limiting beliefs at that. Let's see if there's any questions here, because sometimes I get all fired up and get going. Okay, I think I saw that before. So, I saw that. Sometimes these things just scroll not and they move too fast, and I've got to go back and find where I was. Oh, I apologize for that. Awesome. Awesome, Fiona. Kim. Uh, Cheryl, we are not our thoughts exactly. Yeah, sleep is critical. We'll talk about that coming up too. It's a big topic. I can do a whole live on that. David says peaceful space, stress-free time. There you go. That's how you do it. And Kim, instead of living life, we become consumed by it. And that's what's happened. And it just, again, you either use the ego as a tool or it uses you as a tool. That's right. Fiona. Judgment is from the ego, not the heart. That is true. Judgment is egotistical. It is all of it. Good, bad, left, right, Republican, Democrat, gay, straight. Doesn't matter how you want to slice people up. Any way you categorize them is judgment, and that's by definition, if at least according to what I'm saying here tonight, if you believe what I'm saying, by definition, is egotistical. It is anti-spiritual because it assumes that this separation has occurred. Otherwise, you couldn't categorize people this way. And to be perfectly honest with you, spirit has no political affiliation, has no sex, much less sexual orientation. Spirit is a non-physical being. There's no sexual organs. There's no hormones. There's none of this stuff. There's certainly no politics. I mean, this is all ego. It's all ego, all of it. Yeah, but this guy over here, no, it's all ego. That's okay. I mean, that's the game of life that we're playing right now. But just understand what it is and come at it from a spiritual perspective. Makes a huge difference. Don't get sucked in, you know. Yes, when we judge others, we also judge ourselves. Both judgments are wrong. And that, Jesus talked about that. He's judged, and in the Bible, you see stuff like that in there, and other scriptures where judge lest not you be judged. It's and the funny thing about it is a lot of people in religion don't even understand it. It's like since we're all one spirit, you can't judge somebody else without judging yourself. If you say that guy over there is a arrogant ass, what you're basically saying is that you're seeing some flaw within yourself that you would call arrogant ass in this other person. And it's being reflected back to you. You're recognizing it because you have it in here. And I'm not trying to say that, all the stuff that goes on is appropriate, but just understand it for what it is. You can see the world and see all the stuff that goes on without being judgmental and without identifying with it and without lashing out about it or having some negative reaction. All those things are indications of emotional trauma that you hold within yourself. So when you've truly healed, you won't have that experience. The same stuff can still be going on. And you look, I mean, there's horrible things that happen here, but it's because of lower levels of consciousness. It's because of emotional trauma that people have that is blinding them to who and what they are. And that's how it's manifesting itself in the world. And that's, you can see that from a spiritual perspective without being triggered and without getting upset and without condemning them and judging them or any of this kind of stuff. I'm not saying you necessarily condone in things that, are harmful. That's not the point. But to not engage in it yourself. And we'll do a live on that too. There's some things that are going to be coming up that are just going to flat out blow your mind. But anyway, yes, exactly. Love is who we are. We just have placed veils and masks on to hide our true essence. That's right, Kim. It's a false self, false beliefs projecting out onto the world. It's a false self. It's basically pain being projected. You know, we'll get into that at some point because there's ways to heal that. But just recognizing it is a great start. David says, I believe if we have touch warmth, why not spiritual? Yeah, you describe it, I guess, it's really beyond words. But that that spiritual state, total identification with spirit, enlightenment, being spiritually awakened, whatever you want to call it, and you'll never forget it if you've ever experienced it, even if it's only for a few seconds in a meditation, you know. But if you ever really fully experience it, it's something that you would just describe as unconditional love. It's not the same as love emotions. I love you. I'm attached to you. I need you in my life. I'm going to give you the little I love you hearts at Valentine's Day. It's none of that. It is an unconditional love for everything and everyone. Unconditional. It lacks all negativity and judgment. It's it just doesn't exist because that's all of the ego, which is an extension of a physical mind body, and spiritual beings don't have any of that. Kim says that's why you got to do it when you're in human form. That's right. Food, for example. You got to enjoy the food while you're here because it's the only place you can do it, among other things. The senses, think of all of the senses that you have. You don't have any of those senses when you leave here. So enjoy it while you're here. See, don't get so hotty toddy and spiritual that you deny, your lowly mind body like some vile creature. That's not what it's about. We're here to express our spiritual essence while in human form. You can't fully do that unless you embrace the best, at least the best things about being human, right? Yes, Fiona. Ego, appearance. That's an interesting point. Ego is concerned with appearance. Ego is it's that separation. So I want to appear nice for all the other separate beings, um, as opposed to being inclusive. Spirit's inclusive. It's expansive, but it's inclusive. Ego, no, it deals in separation and um, judgment. Stay centered. Yes. Yeah, if you see it, if the Bible is alive today, if you understand what's in there, and the more you awaken spiritually, the more you will understand things that you've read before that you thought you understood. You'll realize you didn't understand, and you'll see them. And they're not just that you see them; you will experience them on a deep level. The experience will happen as you read the words. Think about that one. Well, they're coming. We're going to be talking about some pretty heavy duty stuff for a while. Susan's asking, is your book out yet? I didn't catch the very beginning to see if you said anything about it. No, it was. I'm waiting on the cover. It's designed. It's all done, but I have to have a file that I can upload. Otherwise, they can't print the book. And so that's what the big holdup is. And the guy that I have doing it finished it and gave me the file, but some of the information on the back of the book was missing. So I had to send it back to him to get that put in, and so he's got to redo the file. But it'll be very, very short, probably within a few days or so. I should have that, and it only takes me, like maybe an hour tops to upload all the stuff and put all the information in, and boom, hit a button, and that's it. It's published. I'll let you know. I will let you know. Cheryl says that there exists an open line of communication with spirit. Indeed. Indeed, if you don't get in the way, there is an open line of communication. You guys are good. You guys are good. All right, so let's wrap this up and then move on to a healing circle. So the illusion of separation, it leads to ideas such as me versus you. You see how that separation starts immediately. You feel the difference, the energy shift there. Me versus you. Oh, you mean we're working against each other? Or us versus them. You can get into it in groups. You see that in well, you see it all over the place, but I mean it's like no one does it better than politicians. Let's put it that way. So, and then this causes many problems. Without a greater understanding of the spiritual connection that we all share, all of humanity suffers, as does all of creation. So the ego gives you a viewpoint to operate from while in the human condition. It's necessary if you're to move about and function in a four-dimensional reality. I like to use time as the fourth dimension. Science, a lot of times, will say this is a three-dimensional reality, and they include time in space because they're so. It has to do with the way the physics of it all work. They're interdependent. However, the point is that when we identify with the ego, this false belief separates us from the truth, from each other, and from God. Identification with the ego is responsible for most of the problems of humanity. And we're capable of consciousness far beyond that of reptiles. And while there has been evolution of ego and intelligence, there must also be evolution of consciousness. So again, either use ego as a tool or you'll be a tool of ego. And there it is, evolution of the ego. From the beginning, you think back to almost the very, very beginning of it, reptiles, to where we are now. But in a lot of ways, the ego really hasn't changed that much. It's more complex. We're more complex. And we do things strictly for the emotion of it rather than for survival. I mean, that's changed. But it's still pretty much, if we need to evolve consciously beyond that, spiritually awaken, if you will, realize who and what we are. And then all that stuff becomes fodder. I mean, that's just what it is. Unless you're a lizard, then I guess it works. But we're capable of far more than that. Tina, I am struggling with a loathing of a man in the news. I've tried to rid myself of this, but I can't seem to get there. The shedding of light tonight, maybe I can get past it. Good. Just don't, it's not personal. See, taking things personal, that's pulling you down into the ego. All of a sudden, you're going to start experiencing negative emotions, and then you're caught. It has you. You become a prisoner of your own mind, a very primitive part of your mind, in fact. So just everything that's going on, just look at it like it must be, because otherwise we wouldn't be creating it. And so, well, why would we be creating it? Well, because there needs to be an opportunity to rise above it. And once you have, just be patient with those that haven't. That's all. It's pointless to do anything else. They'll just pull you back down into, egotism and lower consciousness and all that other stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. It's not just, it's not fair, it's not right, but it's because of how irrational emotions are. It's like when you're caught up in your emotions, you kind of go temporarily insane, even though it's not by the legal definition criminal insanity or something like that. But it's really the same thing. It's really the same thing. And so just say, no, I always look for a higher way to see the same situation. What can you learn from it? What is it trying to teach you? Everything that's going on, what is it trying to teach you? And it may be that you get completely past something and it's still going on because there's other people that need to learn that. And it will continue until everybody does. And that's just the way it is. It's the way it must be. And in that sense, it's not a bad thing. It's because ultimately, we're going to evolve past it. Ultimately, we're going to spiritually awaken. Ultimately, we're going to realize who and what we are. And then collectively, we will create heaven on earth. That is the future. Unfortunately, we're not ready for it this week. So just be patient. You're an immortal being. You have forever. Can we add Mary, Angie, and Deanna? Yes. Mary, Angie, and Deanna. All right. So let's move on to the healing circle. Let me get this banner up. Hey. There we go. Okay. So everybody gather around, form a circle, join hands, gently close your eyes and your mouths, breathing through the nose down to that lower energy center just below the belly button. And then exhale back out through the nose. So a nice deep breath, inhale the peace. And then exhale all tension. Once again, inhale peace. Exhale all stress, all troublesome thoughts, and all disease. And inhale peace. And exhale all tension. Just let it go. Let your muscles relax, your joints expand. So continue breathing on your own at your own pace. Let's do a visualization. Visualize yourself. And this is useful for people that have problems with this ego subconscious identification business. When you meditate, you can, you don't want to do anything forceful, and you don't want to, just use this forever, but it's a good tool to get you started. Some of these visualizations, that's why I do them, because different people will respond differently to different things. So for this one, visualize yourself as a mountain and just continue breathing on your own, but visualize yourself as a mountain and you're perfectly still. You're a huge, majestic mountain, watching all. And at your base are crashing waves, the roaring of the tide. These are your emotions. Let them be. You need not react to your emotions. You are a mountain. You're perfectly still, watching all. And there's clouds that are passing by. And they are your thoughts. Let them drift on by. You need not react to your thoughts. They are merely clouds passing by. You are a mountain. You're perfectly still, watching all. Not focusing on the waves or the clouds, you see all. You enjoy the big mountain view. You take in everything without focusing on anything. So you see everything. Mental clarity and insight come from being aware of the whole. Being aware that your emotions are waves crashing on the shore. Being aware that your thoughts are merely clouds drifting by. Being aware that there's much more. You are a mountain, a majestic mountain, perfectly still, watching all. You see all. You understand all. In the stillness, reality reveals itself. Let's just rest with that for about a minute and then we'll continue. Okay. Beyond all thoughts is pure being, harmony with all that is. It's a very peaceful state, free of all of the negativity of the world. And with each breath, gently exhale peace to the world and all of its inhabitants. So we breathe in all the harmony that is, and then exhale peace to the world and all of its inhabitants. And again, deep breath. Exhale peace to the world and all of its inhabitants. Okay, now let's place Mary and Angie and Deanna in the center of our healing circle. Take a deep breath and exhale peace into them all the way to the soul level, dispersing all that is not peace. And again, deep breath. And gently blow healing energy into the three of them, dispersing all disease. And again, deep breath. And gently blow peace into them, dispersing all that is not peace. Until peace is all that remains. Peace and harmony, a healthy balance. And so it is. All right, slowly open your eyes. And unless there's some last minute questions, we will call it a night. That's inspiring. Hi, Shelby. How you doing? Well, a job's a good thing. And, if you don't quite get in here in time because of it, that's fine. Just catch the replay. And and for those of you that don't know, if you're watching a replay and you have a question, put it in the comment box, because chances are I'll see it and I'll answer it in the comment box. So it'll be just like you're here, and energetically you are. You can go back and watch these healing circles at a later date and have the same experience, because the energy is what it is. It's not confined the way you might think. Not bound by time, in other words. The spirit is not bound by time and space. Good point, Kim. Just be you. It's always weird being a newbie at first. You will find your groove. Just be you. Yeah. If in fact, if anything that you've heard here you resonate with, go ahead and join the tribe, whether on Facebook or YouTube. Follow, subscribe. We're live Wednesday nights at 6. On Facebook, there's daily posts, image quotes for, kind of to be thought provoking. But you'll if you if you resonate with anything that you heard, then you're ready for this, and you're here for a reason. So stick around. It'll be well worth your time. Kim's reminding everybody to drink a full glass of water. And with that, we will call it a night. I honor the God within you. And remember, until the next time, the only way to bring about the greater good is to be the greater good. Good night.